When I got out of college, I was 150 pounds, lean, soaking wet cardio junkie who was really eager to put on some muscle mass. So naturally, I just took to the weights, barbells, dumbbells, a lot of time on weight machines. No one knew what a kettlebell was back then, of course. But after about 5-6 years, I built about 10-15 pounds of muscle, but my body was really taking a toll on. Now, fast forward, I'm 47, much cooler haircut, and I'm just north of 200 pounds, still fairly lean, and almost all of that muscle has been built and maintained with calisthenics training. And in today's video, I'm going to share with you why it's been so much easier and much more effective for me to build muscle with bodyweight training than with any other modality, the mistakes I made, and the lessons I wish I knew to make it happen a lot faster back in the day. Now, my bodyweight training was not like what you usually see or hear people doing when it comes to calisthenics. I don't do high volume stuff. I'm not doing as many push-ups as I possibly can do, until I'm peeling myself off the floor. I'm also not doing any calisthenics like skills. I don't give a damn about muscle ups, planches, or front levers to a large degree. I can't do any sort of really high coordination exercises. I'm totally allergic to burpees, so none of that stuff. We're talking body weight, bodybuilding style training with the focus on just purely putting on muscle. Now, when I made the change from weights into calisthenics, I saw a big jump and improvement in how I looked, felt, and performed. And like many people, I made the mistake of thinking, oh, that means that calisthenics is better, or at least better for me. But what I didn't understand at the time was that it had nothing to do with calisthenics. Instead, as I eventually learned, that success in health and fitness doesn't come from your diet and exercise habits. It comes from how well your habits can consistently influence the fundamental process of mother and human nature that is responsible for your success. And in the case of building muscle, that process involves creating a stimulus in our training, followed by adaptation to that stimulus. And your success is not about sets and reps. It's not about weights versus calisthenics. It's about whatever is the easiest way for you to create as strong a stimulus as possible on a consistent basis over long periods of time. Also, it's about being able to adapt to that stimulus in general. And remember that the adaptation is not recovery. Everyone recovers from their training. Not everyone can adapt. And this is because adaptation depends on a lot of things like age, your training history, your skills and proficiency with your ability to use your body, mindset, focus, discipline. But there's a lot you can obviously control here too. Getting good quality sleep, managing stress, mental and emotional stress, and of course having a satisfying diet that's heavy with the protein and nutrient density. Those are the things that give you the best chance at adaptation, because after all, you can plant the most perfect seed in an arid desert and nothing's ever going to grow. So making sure that you're keeping your diet in check, sleep, stress at bay, and all that sort of thing gives you the ability to adapt. And then it's all about helping you create the strongest, most consistent stimulus possible. Now, when it comes to creating the stimulus, you need to effectively challenge your muscular work capacity. Now, what do I mean by that? That means working the muscle to the degree where you're getting close to failure. You're effectively saying, more power, Scotty! And your muscles are like, I'm giving her all she's got, Captain! And that's effectively creating the cascade that's telling, okay, the muscle needs to build itself up to be able to perform more muscular output. And when it comes to creating that stimulus, you have only two variables at your disposal. You've got time and you've got tension. Now, both of which are important because you need to spend enough time doing enough reps and sets to get your muscles to that point where they're kind of struggling. But you also need to create enough tension in the muscle so that way it doesn't take you forever to get to that limitation, if you even can do it at all. Now, calisthenics has massive advantages to make it a lot easier to pursue both time and muscle tension. And first off, from the time standpoint, is just comfort. I always felt relatively uncomfortable the heavier the weights got in my hands. It's just a pressure on the body. I don't need a spotter when I'm doing these exercises. I don't feel like I might get stuck under a bar. I don't have heavy loads in my joints. It's just basically I've got a lot less stress on my body, so I have the ability to really push myself a lot more into that red zone. And calisthenics also has a huge advantage for generating that tension. Now, like many, I used to think, well, it's so much easier with weights because you just add weight, and therefore more weight equals more tension. Maybe, but not necessarily, because we have weight, we have resistance, and we have muscle tension. All three are different, but they're also heavily correlated, not the same thing. It's important to always remember that it's the tension that's the active ingredient. And that's first and foremost why I'm always a big advocate on improving tension control. Because if you have trouble generating the tension in the muscle, well, good luck to you. Nothing you do is ever going to work because that tension is generated from your nervous system. It's not about the weight. It's not about the exercise. That's the application of that tension. So that's the first rule that I eventually learned that I needed. But when it comes to adding weight, it's really easy in calisthenics because with progressive suspension calisthenics style training, we have to remember this is still fundamentally weightlifting. I'm still generating resistance by pushing my body weight up against gravity. And progressive theory is all about adding or subtracting that weight due to body position. I don't need to swap out plates. I don't need to swap out dumbbells or change settings on a machine. All I need to do is change my body position. So if I'm doing push-ups here, then I've got so much weight on my hands and so much weight on my feet. So this is lightweight. But if I back up, I have shifted weight more onto my hands, so I'm lifting a heavier amount of weight. I have more resistance, therefore theoretically more tension in my push chain. I can also shift weight between my right and left sides. So now I've got more weight on my right arm, adding resistance, therefore again, hopefully more muscle tension. And so all I need to do to access a much higher level of weight, therefore resistance, therefore muscle tension, is just a simple shift in my body position. And I can explore really heavy training, or I can easily drop set. I'm not stuck with whatever is on the bar or with whatever settings are on a machine. I can go through half a set and think I'm feeling strong today. I can really push myself. But it's not just about weight. We also have leverage, which is very fun to play with, because if I do something like, instead of a regular push-up, like an RTO push-up, where my hands are getting lower towards my hips, I'm increasing or decreasing the leverage on my chest, so I can, again, very easily access a very high level of resistance and therefore generate or ask my muscles to generate a very high amount of muscle tension, which not only helps with strength, but in challenging work capacity. Not to mention, of course, that we can use external loading or unloading of the body itself with like weight vests, dip belts. I've been experimenting a lot with bands to both add or reduce the resistance of the body. So when we look at like using a weight machine, we're like, well, yeah, you just add or subtract weight. I'm like, yeah, that's great. But with bodyweight training, we can add or subtract weight through weight shifting. We can add or subtract weight through loading or unloading with external loads. Plus we have leverage. So we have more options for generating resistance to the right amount. So that way we're challenging the tension, couple that with the ability to push the time to a much higher degree. And I, for one, find it's a lot easier to create a much stronger stimulus. And then lastly, of course, is the simple economics of calisthenics training. I don't need a gym. I don't need much equipment. The setup for what limited equipment I have, like maybe suspension straps or a pull-up bar, is very quick. And the workouts are much shorter and easier to fit in my schedule. So that allows me to not only create that stimulus, but to do it consistently for long periods of time, because ultimately building muscle to any degree is a marathon or even an ultra marathon and not a sprint. So we need methods that are as sustainable as possible for years at a time. But at the end of the day, it really has nothing to do with calisthenics here. That's just what I find works best for me, because it's the easiest way for me to create a strong stimulus on a consistent basis for long periods of time. I've been doing it for 16 years now. So your takeaway, though, is whatever is easiest for you to do that is what you should do. If you came to me and you're like, Matt, I don't want to do calisthenics, I hate push-ups and stuff, I'm like, fine, don't do it. There's no reason for you to do it at all. Just use whatever method it will help you create that stimulus by challenging your work capacity as much as possible on a consistent basis for long periods of time. It could be a weight machine in your basement, could be lifting rocks and logs in the forest for all I care. Doesn't really matter. Use whatever programming allows you to do that too. It could be working a muscle once a week, or it could be every day. Use whatever amount of recovery you need for your lifestyle, your conditioning, your abilities, so that every time you're trying to challenge your work capacity, you can do it to a high degree. If you're burning yourself out and getting exhausted, scale back more recovery. But if you're ready to go and you can do it like every other day, well, then go for it. Don't listen to a dogmatic approach. Listen to your body. And then lastly, again, you have the ability to adapt as much as possible. Manage stress, keep anxiety at bay. Don't spend a whole lot of time doom scrolling on the fear-mongering, rage bait kind of social media stuff. Get plenty of good sleep and protein-heavy, nutrient-dense diet. If you don't need to follow any sort of restrictive diet for religious reasons, personal reasons, medical reasons, that sort of thing, don't diet. When people are like, okay, can I build muscle if I'm like all organic, paleo, intermittent fasting, eating nothing but raw carrots and butter? And they're like, yeah. Is it possible? Yes. Is it probable though? It's not about can something work. It's about whatever's going to give you the easiest, best chance of working. So can you build muscle with one set to failure once a week? Yes. But what are the chances that's going to be best for you? And you got to be honest with yourself. Don't do what someone says is best. Do whatever's going to give you the greatest chance and the odds in your favor of creating a strong stimulus on a consistent basis for years on end. Whatever that is what you should be doing. So what are the challenges and obstacles that I can help you overcome? Leave them down below in the comments section. If you want to learn more about my methods of madness, check out my two most popular books, Grind Style Calisthenics, all about bodyweight bodybuilding, and of course, my newest one, Beautiful Strength, using calisthenics to look and feel your most attractive self. Links are all down below in the description. Thank you very much for watching. As always, be fit and live free.